Good morning. What is up, fellow Hoops fans? Welcome back to yet another episode of the Last Shot NBA show right here on Little Birdie TV. As always, brought to you by our great mates over there at topsport.com.au. Yes, the real thing has finally started. The playoffs are here, baby. And who better to talk playoffs than old mate BK? My brother, how are you?
Man, Pitbull voice, playoffs. Let's go.
Have we seen Pitbull do a song for these playoffs yet, or no?
Another one. You already released the greatest playoff song once.
So he's already released his Thriller, right? I love it. All right, BK, we've got a hell of a lot to talk about. A few games on yesterday, a few games on today. Couple already have concluded. What a finish over there in Boston as well. We're going to get to that in a second, but we're going to start off. We're going to take a quick look at yesterday's games, BK. We're going to start off with Utah and Dallas. Utah 99, Dallas 93. So Utah take a 1-zip lead in that series, BK. We spoke about it prior to this series starting. No Luka, no Dallas. If he doesn't come back, they're in big, big strife, aren't they?
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be out for game 2 as well. And conceivably, they could be staring down a 2-0 series deficit, and then obviously having to go to Utah, trailing and having to try and come back in that series. I mean, if Doncic does come back for game 3, I still do give them a chance, but they're really, really starting this series on the back foot here. They just don't have enough to keep up with Donovan Mitchell, who went crazy in that second half yesterday.
No, it's absolutely, you're right. And again, we've spoken about this. You take the Luka out of that equation we said maybe a game or two. Yeah, they can probably, like you said, even if they go down 2-zip, right, and Luka comes back for game 3, I kind of like him to maybe even win 1 or possibly 2 over in Utah. But no Doncic for more than 2 games. I think that series is practically done, to be perfectly honest. If they go back to Utah down 2-zip and no Doncic and Utah wins game 3, see you later.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot for the Mavs to get back. If they can get something done on their home court in game 2, it's a different story, and that kind of gives you a clean slate going into game 3. But between Gobert, who was just a monster defensively, he didn't really have to do that much on the offensive end. Donovan kind of took care of business, and Bogdanovic as well. It's asking a lot for the Dallas Mavericks, who I quite liked heading into this postseason. I like a lot of their role players, but they exist in the orbit around Doncic. So without him, it really just doesn't work the same.
And it's going to be, look, if they don't progress, it's going to be a shame because they were really gunning for that number 4 seed, which is why Doncic ended up playing that last game as well, the one in which he got injured. So I don't know, man, if they'd maybe rested him and even fallen down to the 5th seed, as long as you have a healthy Luka, like who really cares if you're 4 or 5 to me? But hey, what do I know? All right, BK, let's move on to another game. This is probably the most surprising result, I guess, in a way, of yesterday's opening games. Minnesota 130, Memphis 117. So the Timberwolves upsetting the highest seeded Memphis Grizzlies. Good showing from the Wolves. Cat played really well, but Anthony Edwards was the one that was shining. 36 points, 6 assists, 2 blocks on 13 of 23 from the field. I think it was 4 of 11 from the 3-point line as well. He also broke Stephon Marbury's record for most points by a Wolves player in their first playoff game. BK, what did you make of this? Now, was this just a one-off upset, the Wolves sort of carrying that momentum from their play-in game, or are they going to give the Grizzlies a series?
Hey, the Wolves have got a little bit of swagger about them. Like they're talking talk. They're moving different now after that play-in win, and you could hardly tell that was Anthony Edwards' playoff debut. Like the confidence this kid is playing with, scoring at all 3 levels, like hitting off the dribble threes. Like he just looks so unfazed by the moment, and maybe that's youth. He's only in his 2nd season, but he was not bothered at all by the playoff stage. If anything, it seemed to elevate his level of play. So the Timberwolves, they kind of remind me of the Grizzlies last season. Like they have that kind of confidence. They've got these young guys that they're invested in, and things are looking pretty promising in Minnesota. I don't know if it's going to happen for them this season, but there's a lot to work with out there, and you never know. They could just keep on rolling. I think the Grizzlies will get back to back together in game 2. But great signs from the young Timberwolves, especially Cat as well. After the disappointing play-in game that he had to come out there and play the way he did.
BK, I want to get your thoughts on this because I was watching this game, right, and I know Dylan Brooks had 24 odd points, and I think Desmond Bain had, I think 20, 18, 20 as well. So it wasn't like they didn't get contributions from other guys, but I also feel like once you sort of take Ja Morant out a little bit of that, offensive lineup, like in terms of, his contribution, that they kind of lose their way a little bit. So, I still feel like a lot is relying upon Ja Morant for that squad.
Yeah, and look, the playoffs are different. We saw them succeed in the regular season without Ja Morant. They had an incredible record without Ja, but you can already feel the intensity just going up tenfold in these playoff games, and you need the guy that's going to attack off the dribble. Who's he's the head of the snake. And look, Ja had a great game himself. He had 32 and 8. But it was just, I think they were just overwhelmed by the efficiency and the high octane offense that the Wolves put forward. The Wolves just outplayed them. They just played a great game. But yeah, is it just they win the first game and then the Grizz are going to steamroll them for the next 4? Probably, but you never know. This Timberwolves team is riding high.
Look, I'd pick the Grizzlies in 5 for this series. I don't know, man. I think this one might go longer than 5, to be perfectly honest, because I think the Timberwolves are coming here with nothing to lose, right? That sort of mentality. Like, we're here, we're going to just sort of try and cause as much chaos as we can, and whatever happens type of thing. So I don't know. I think they might even steal another game. It's very important that the Grizzlies get game 2. You don't want to go back to Minnesota down 2-0 though.
Yeah, I mean, the Timberwolves have already stolen home court advantage after this game, but I still think the Grizzlies will get it together in this one. But this series could go it could go the distance. You never know. The Timberwolves, we expected them to maybe be good in a couple of seasons. Are they just ahead of schedule? The playoffs will tell us everything, because that's really when you get to figure out who guys are. Is how do they play when the stakes are at their highest? And they've got a lot of young guys, but so far so good.
Listen, they celebrated like they won a championship after getting through that play-in tournament. Imagine how they're going to celebrate if they actually win a playoff series.
They haven't won a playoff series in a long time, so they deserve it.
They're going to party very, very hard. All right, BK. We're going to talk a little bit about this game here because your guy, Tyrese Maxey, who we're actually going to talk about a little bit more in length a little bit later in the show. He had a fantastic game for the 76ers yesterday. Philly wins 131-111 over Toronto. Like we said, Tyrese Maxey looking fantastic. Scottie Barnes gets an injury, so he's been diagnosed with a left ankle sprain, so his status is a little bit up in the air. Moving forward, Joelle Embiid stepped on his foot inadvertently. We've got the tweet. We're going to show a quick highlight of this right now as we're talking as well. So there you have it. Embiid inadvertently steps on his foot. So his status is up in the air. James Harden had a nice game as well. 22 points, 14 assists. BK, what was your takeaways from this game?
Well, Joelle Embiid was always going to be the focal point of this Raptors defense. And, he spoke about that at length heading into the series, how hard the Raptors play him defensively. And they were sending just bodies and bodies at Joel. And that just opened up the space for guys like Maxey and Tobias Harris as well, who had a really good game. So a lot of it's just going to be on the Sixers role players. If they're going to swarm and trap Embiid like that, and you get contributions from these other guys, this could be light work for the 76ers. But the Raptors are going to live and die by that. If they're going to make the rest of the Sixers beat them, they're not going to let Joel crush them inside. And they did a reasonably good job containing him. I think he was 5 of 15 yesterday. But Maxey, man, this guy, he was unbelievable yesterday. His speed off the dribble, he had a lot of open looks because of the coverage they were giving Joel, but he did not waste any opportunities out there.
No, absolutely not. And like I said, we're going to talk about Maxey in a second, but I just want to quickly ask you, this Scottie Barnes injury now, like this, if he's not able to play, who knows? If it's just the next game, okay, I think Toronto get by, but if he's out for the rest of the series, I think that really changes the entire dynamic of this series because Toronto had a good opportunity. If they steal game 2, go back to Toronto 1-1, Matisse Thybulle obviously not eligible to play, so that's going to hurt the 76ers in Toronto as well. But if they've got no Scottie Barnes, that's going to be an even bigger loss than Philadelphia not having Thybulle.
Oh, absolutely. And the Raptors, they play a short rotation as it is, which is only going to get shorter during the postseason. And until Scottie went out, he was on track to have the first ever Raptors playoff triple-double. He had 15, 10, and 8 before he went out with that injury. He was having a great playoff debut. Gary Trent Jr. also likely to miss game 2 as well with illness. So the Raptors are running a little thin early in this series. James Harden, what did you think of his game? He was decent.
Yeah, he was more than decent, actually. Like I said, 22 points, 14 rebounds. My concern with Harden is not the early games of a playoff series. It's the later games of a playoff series. Actually, I've got the stats in front of me here. James Harden's stats in playoff elimination games, like going back to 2010, they're pretty poor, BK. All right, so we've got games here: 1 of 3, 6 of 10, 9 of 20, 5 of 20, 2 of 11. A lot of turnovers here. Like he doesn't show up, right? And this is why I think Tyrese Maxey is so important. And I think this is maybe why a lot of us owe you an apology, because you've been on this Tyrese Maxey train from the get-go.
I'm saying.
That's why he's so important to this squad, because I watch Maxey play and I look at him and people don't get carried away when I say this. I think he's probably the most electrifying player the Sixers have had since Allen Iverson. And I'm not saying he is of an Allen Iverson caliber. He's just the most electrifying player, as in he can really make things happen on the court on both ends of the floor. Like he can make plays on the offensive end. He's active on the defensive end. He gets the fast break going. James Harden's, like I said, he's been inconsistent in big games. So if they get later on in the series, and this guy's already shown that he's capable of stepping up, he's not scared of the big moment, they're going to need a guy like Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah, especially when you have Harden in that primary playmaker role. He had 14 dimes yesterday. Like he was moving the ball. And even like a few of those moves where he looked like he was going into his dribble, step back, and then he'd fire off, a pass into the corner and get someone an open look. Like if you have, that's always been the thing with the Sixers is if the other guys knock down their shots, if it's Maxey, if it's Harris, if Tybulle's getting shots, if these guys are hitting shots, what are you supposed to do? Because you're going to send double coverage to Embiid. You can't double both Embiid and Harden. So there's going to be space for these other guys to go to work. So it's only one game, but the Sixers, they look good.
And my other concern with the Sixers, obviously, is Doc Rivers. James Harden's been known not to show up in big games too. And look, Doc Rivers has had some questionable big games as well in terms of his in-game, adjustments and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know, man. I'm still not sold on the 76ers as a whole going super deep in these playoffs, but we'll see.
Hey, especially coming up against Nick Nurse. He's probably one of the trickiest coaches to come up against. He's got to have something coming for game 2.
Big facts. And obviously this morning we saw the Boston Celtics come away with that 1-point win over the Brooklyn Nets. What a game, BK. Jason Tatum on a spin move layup to the bucket for the game-winning 2-pointer. What did you make of that?
And that felt like a game 7. The tension was in the building. They were booing Kyrie. Like it was hostile there in the Garden to tip off that series. This is going to be a very, very electric first round series. And I mean, the way Kyrie was serving up buckets, this guy's fasting and he's still playing at a ridiculously elite level. That was fun to see him go back there and put in work. But shout out to the Celtics, because Kyrie hit that big 3 to put him up late, and then Jaylen Brown got that quick 2-for-1, gave him an opportunity, and they found a way to seal the game basically without having to sort of force 3-pointers. They just got the 2 layups down the stretch. That was well executed from the Celtics. They showed a lot of composure down the stretch of that game.
Yeah, I kind of feel like as basketball fans, we're being robbed in a sense that this is like a first round series and not, maybe an Eastern Conference Finals or something, because this is going to be, I think, the best opening series in the playoffs this season, East or West. Both these teams, it's a shame that one of them is going to have to go out this early in the playoffs, to be perfectly honest. But look, if Boston can hold serve at home and win both their games, and then you go back to Brooklyn for the next 2, and who knows, Simmons comes back. Like, this is going to be super, super interesting, man. Very interesting series to keep an eye on.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this in this first round series. It doesn't feel like a round one series, but I'm excited to see what comes from this next game because I still think the Nets will feel they should have won that game. They still feel they can win on the road there in Boston. So yeah, if they can get one on the road and go back to Barclays, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, look, if they go back to Barclays 1-1 and Kyrie's playing this well already, this is definitely one to keep an eye on, man. This is going to be the best series, I'm telling you, from either conference, I think, in the first round. All right, BK, my man, we're going to let you go. We know you're a busy man. We're going to bring on old mate Parky. We're going to take a look at some of the odds. BK, we'll catch you again later on in the week. So thank you very much, my man.
I appreciate you, my brother.
All right, man. We're going to welcome in Andrew Parkinson. Old mate Parky is going to take us through some of the odds. We're going to take a look at today's game. We're going to take a look at some of tomorrow's games as well. Parky, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you, Nick?
I'm doing great. Just enjoying all this fantastic playoff basketball. I just want to quickly get your thoughts. What did you think of that Boston-Brooklyn game this morning?
Yeah, wow. That we're looking at it. From a gambling point of view, and it was a great win by the Celtics at home, but they didn't cover the spread, Nick. Okay, they didn't cover the spread. I think, so the Nets, weren't looking real good, but the Celtics ended up doing it. I just don't know how you get a layup for the game winner though for Tatum.
No, I was saying the exact same thing. I was like, I was coming into work, obviously down here in the morning, so I was just sort of getting updates via my phone. And when I saw that Tatum had won the game, you and I spoke about this. We thought it would have been some sort of fade away from the corner or something like that, but nah, he went straight to the bucket and got that. So, like I said, that's going to be the best series to watch. Definitely one to keep an eye on. But we're going to quickly take a look at today's game, which is the Phoenix Suns and the New Orleans Pelicans. Suns favorites here, $1.21. Pelicans $4.90. The line's at -10. Total is at 224.5. Live on NBA League Pass a little bit later on today. Pelicans are super fun. Could be, dangerous in terms of maybe sneaking a win, a game in this series. But as far as winning it, I don't think so. But as far as today's game, Parky, who do you like?
Well, the Suns have been waiting. They've obviously had the best record in the NBA. The Pelicans, I'm still hurting from that COVID protocol that had Paul George missing that important playing game. So my tip for the Clippers to beat the Pelicans didn't come through. And in fact, it was a real turnaround with Paul George obviously included in the team. They were 4-point favourites. As soon as he was declared the COVID protocols and he was out of the game, instantly the Pelicans became, I think, 1-point favourites in that game, and duly won by 4 points. So obviously that swung that one. But the Pelicans today against the Suns, they're obviously the Suns at $1.21. That's not a lot of great value there, but the -10. I think the Suns will probably win this in double digits, and the under overs 224.5. And I think, I think that one could go slightly under.
Yeah, I'm with you, Parky. Like I said, I think maybe the Pelicans have enough in them to maybe get a win at home in either game 3 or 4. But I don't see them winning in Phoenix. And I think it's going to be a pretty quick series, 5 games max, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me too. I think, something like 4-1. A lot of people are saying this could be a sweep, but the Pelicans aren't too bad. I think you're right there. Probably go about 5 games. Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at some of tomorrow's games as well. 3 games on the schedule tomorrow. We're going to start off with a couple of teams we just spoke about with BK a little bit earlier. Philadelphia and Toronto. Philadelphia, $1.32 favourites. Toronto, $3.45. Lines at -7. Totals at 217.5. NBA League Pass is where you can watch this one here. Parky, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, that line's crept out a little bit. It was initially 6. It went to 6.5, and it's now settled at about 7. Game 1, it was about 4.5. So they've obviously made an adjustment after that 20-point win in game 1 from the Sixers. But I think things are going to tighten up a little bit. The under-overs at 217.5. Game 1, it went 242 points. So I think it's still going to go over that. Obviously, Scottie Barnes is a concern for the Raptors in that one. That's probably a reason the spread's sort of, snuck out there. But I'm going to still stick with my Raptors, Nick. I'm still going to stick with them. I like the +7 there. You're getting 7 points head start for a team that I think are well coached. After game one, they're going to prepare. I don't think they were ready for their two leading scorers for the Sixers to be Maxey and Tobias Harris. I think, that one's going to switch up a little bit, but I still think it's going to be fairly high scoring. So I think taking the over 217.5 there is good value. And also just looking at the series odds in that one, we've got the Raptors. I think they've come in. Yeah, there we go, $4. The Sixers $1.25. They're obviously up 1 zip. But this is one where, I like the Raptors +7 in this game too. But if the Raptors win this game, then that series odds is going to come right in. And you're probably looking at the Raptors being around $2 if they can take back that home court advantage. And if they go back to Toronto, as you've mentioned, Nick, if they go back to Toronto 1-1, no Matisse Thybulle, in the team, and hopefully if Scottie Barnes is sort of looking okay, then the Raptors could be a good thing for that series.
Yeah, I think game 2 is going to be huge in that series because, like you said, if they can go back to Toronto 1-1, it's going to change the dynamic a lot. All right, moving on to the next game that we're going to take a look at here. Utah Jazz, Dallas Mavericks. Like we've said, no Luka potentially anyway for game 2 as well. And like I've been saying, no Luka, no Dallas. Jazz, $1.43 favorites, even though this game is going to be in Dallas. Mavericks, 288. Lines at 5.5. Totals at 205.5. You can watch this one on ESPN. Parky, do you agree with me? No Luka, no Dallas?
Spot on there. Spot on. They're still saying he's unlikely for game 2. So I think they've got that game 3 in Utah as his, for Luka to come back. But game 1, the Mavs did pretty well defensively. They held the Jazz to 99 points. They only scored 91 themselves. But they did a pretty good job with the defense there. But I'm not so sure about game 2. There was only 190 points scored in that game 1 without Luka. If he doesn't play, what's likely is he's not going to be playing. I think it's going to go over that 205.5. That's a very low total, that 205.5. So I'm pretty sure the Jazz are going to cover the 5.5 point spread. But I think it's going to go over as well this game.
All right, there you have it. Last game we're going to take a look at, and then we're going to get out of here. We've got the Denver Nuggets and Golden State Warriors. The Warriors are boosted by the return of Steph Curry, even though he did come off the bench yesterday. But I guess, Jordan Poole did a pretty good job starting for him as well. He had 30 points, I believe it was. So the Warriors, $1.33 favorites here. Nuggets, $3.40. Lines at -7. Total, 224.5. This one's going to be on League Pass. Parky, what do you make of all this one?
The Warriors are rolling, Nick, and I think they'll cover that spread. It's 7 points. It's up there a little bit, but they won by 16 in game 1. It was a perfect game for Steph and the Warriors. Obviously, with his injury concern, for him to come in and play some minutes, get a few shots up. I think they'll play him sort of minutes restrictions for this series, and I think he'll be ready to go for the second round of the playoffs. Because I think we can both agree that the Warriors will get through this series. But yeah, the under-over 224.5. It was 230 in game 1, and I think that's probably going to continue. If anything, I think the Warriors are going to feel pretty good about themselves. Poole had a great game, 30 points, so they're getting a lot of scoring there. Steph might not go for his normal 30 points, but I see that point tally going over the 224.5.
Yeah, look, I reckon with the Warriors, you're probably a safe bet every single time going over on the totals because they can just put up points very, very quickly in the game. I agree with you, Parky. I think the Warriors win tomorrow, and I actually think they're going to win this series pretty comfortably. And to be perfectly honest, with Steph back in that lineup and Draymond back and them sort of clicking, they could be a smoky to make the Western Conference Finals. I kind of liked them earlier in the season. And then I sort of fell off them a little bit, but I think I'm back on that Warriors bandwagon.
Well, someone's got to challenge those Suns. I think everyone's pretty happy with the Suns having the best record in the NBA. They've been leading the league all year. They're still smarting after last year's loss in the NBA Finals. But I think you're right. I think the Warriors are the best chance to knock over the Suns in the West. The Grizzlies obviously have got the second seed in there. They're down 1-0 in their series. But I still think when push comes to shove, I think the Warriors they're the best challengers for the Suns, and I think it's out of those two to come out of the West.
Yep, I agree with you 100% on that, Parky. All right, we're going to let you go, Parky, as well. You're going to be back on Wednesday, dropping some more of that knowledge on us here. So thank you very much for joining us for today. We'll catch you on Wednesday. This has been another episode of The Last Shot NBA show here on Little Birdie TV, as always brought to you by our great mates at topsport.com.au. We'll see you guys Wednesday morning.